Health concerns are prompting a big change for a Hollywood superstar.
The family of Bruce Willis says he is stepping away from acting because of aphasia. Circle of Health reporter Denise Dodor joining us more with details on this brain disease.
One of Hollywood's most legendary action stars is facing the toughest battle of his life. Once the king of stunts and known for some of the most iconic movies ever, Bruce Willis's world has been shaken by a devastating diagnosis.
I was so panicked, and I just remember hearing it and just not hearing anything else. It was like I was free falling.
Could this be the end of seeing him on screen? And how is his family coping with such heartbreaking news? Join us as we reveal the full emotional story behind this tragic update. A heartbreaking diagnosis. Bruce Willis has always been known as the tough, unstoppable hero on the big screen. Yet the real-life story unfolding for him and his family is far from any action movie. Behind the cameras, Bruce is facing a battle that has now worsened with time. His family recently shared a heartbreaking update, and the details are both shocking and deeply emotional. It all began in early 2022. Fans noticed Bruce stepping away from Hollywood, and the world soon learned why. He was diagnosed with aphasia, a condition that slowly robs someone of their ability to speak and understand words. For a man whose voice had carried legendary characters like John McClane, the diagnosis was terrifying. But for the Willis family, the nightmare had only just begun. Just a year later, the family revealed that Bruce's condition had worsened, and that the real diagnosis was even more serious: frontotemporal dementia, or FTD. Unlike more familiar forms of dementia that affect memory, FTD targets communication and behavior. It's cruel in a way few can imagine. Everyday conversation, once effortless, becomes a struggle. Expressions of emotion and even simple interactions with loved ones can be impacted. For someone like Bruce, whose charisma defined a generation of fans, the disease is devastating in the most personal ways. The family's message to the public was filled with both sorrow and gratitude. They explained that while Bruce faces unimaginable challenges, finally having a clear diagnosis offers a small measure of relief. They urged the world to understand that FTD is not rare. It's likely underdiagnosed, especially in people under 60. There is currently no cure. Awareness and research, they said, are critical. Through all of this, Bruce's legacy as a man who used his voice for good shines through. Even as FTD progresses, his influence and spirit continue to inspire. The family expressed that Bruce would want the spotlight now to be on those struggling with the disease, offering connection and support to other families facing the same fight. They encouraged people to learn about FTD and to support research through organizations such as the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration. Fans and the public have responded with overwhelming love. Social media has been flooded with messages, tributes, and shared memories of Bruce's films and personal kindness. His family noted how much the support has meant to them, helping them focus on giving Bruce the best quality of life possible despite the disease's challenges. The headlines tell the story, but the beginning often goes unnoticed. What small warning signs were ignored, and how did they grow into something far more serious? The subtle signs. It began almost unnoticed, a subtle change in the way Bruce Willis spoke. At first, it was easy to dismiss. He had struggled with a stutter as a child, so the changes in his speech seemed familiar. And it wasn't a cause of concern at the time, but those closest to him sensed something was off. The first public signs that something was wrong with Bruce appeared as early as 2017, on the set of M. Night Shyamalan's Glass. Crew members noticed subtle changes in the actor, moments when he seemed slightly off, needing extra help with lines, or appearing confused. At the time, people assumed it could be anything from fatigue to the pressure of acting, or even just an off day. no one suspected the quiet beginnings of a degenerative disease.
Actor Bruce Willis announced he's been diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia.
Frontal temporal lobe dementia, as the name implies, the frontal lobes.
Looking back, these small moments now take on a chilling clarity. In one tense scene, Bruce mishandled a prop gun, firing before the cue, nearly putting a co-star in danger. Crew members tried to adjust, giving him extra guidance, but the mistakes persisted. What once seemed like simple errors now appear to be early warnings of the cognitive challenges that would later define his daily life. The pattern continued in 2020 during the filming of Hard Kill. Observers noticed Bruce struggling with timing, missing cues, and asking questions that revealed confusion about his role on set. Attempts to accommodate him, rescheduling shoots, breaking down lines repeatedly, were necessary just to keep production moving. Despite these challenges, those around him were careful not to expose or embarrass him, masking the growing severity of the situation. By 2021, during pre-production on White Elephant, longtime collaborators began to sense that something fundamental had changed. The actor they had known for decades, the precise, commanding presence of Bruce Willis, was no longer the same. His team adjusted schedules and filming strategies to account for what appeared to be lapses in understanding, moments when he seemed unsure of his surroundings and even questioned why he was there. These incidents were never isolated. Over time, multiple productions and colleagues observed the gradual but unmistakable pattern. Now, looking back at the films and sets of the past several years, the pieces fall into place. The unexplainable moments of confusion and difficulties with lines and timing, something he has done for years, now made sense. What could once be attributed to simple fatigue or forgetfulness was, in hindsight, the early stages of frontotemporal dementia, the cruel condition that would eventually force him to step away from acting. The diagnosis was a shock, especially given his relatively young age and vibrant energy.
We're going to turn to Bruce Willis. It has been almost 3 months since his family announced the actor would be stepping away from his career after being diagnosed with aphasia.
It was a disease that whispered at first, barely perceptible, yet it had already begun to change the life of a man the world had long seen as invincible. Rumors about his health swirled relentlessly in the media. Many stories painted a dire picture, but the reality was more measured. While his brain is affected by the disease, his overall health and mobility have remained stable. The disease has forced his family to cherish every moment. His daughters, young and grown, have come to understand the importance of being fully present, of savoring the small, fleeting joys that the disease does not yet claim. Family gatherings and shared memories now carry more weight than ever. Photos and social media posts show Bruce laughing with his children, holding his granddaughter, and sharing tender moments with family. While Bruce Willis's diagnosis is deeply heartbreaking, fans are now turning their attention to the laughter.
But Bruce Willis and Demi Moore still have one of the most fascinating celebrity relationships ever.
And unforgettable moments he has brought to audiences over the years. What mark has this legendary icon left on the movie industry, and which roles and moments will ensure he is remembered for generations to come? The dangerous reality of Bruce Willis's career. Die Hard was the movie that changed action cinema forever. It was this 1988 classic that turned Bruce Willis into a global icon. Explosions, shootouts, witty one-liners, and the unforgettable cat-and-mouse chase between John McClane and Hans Gruber. Everything about it screams perfection. But behind the cool smirk and blood-stained vest was a terrifying truth. Bruce Willis nearly didn't survive the making of the film that made him famous. While audiences were on the edge of their seats watching McClane leap from rooftops, Bruce himself was facing very real danger. Much of what we saw on screen came at a painful cost, one that followed him for the rest of his life. Before Die Hard, Bruce wasn't even Hollywood's first choice. He had to fight to prove he could handle the role. According to the last action heroes, the triumphs and feuds of Hollywood's kings of carnage, Bruce campaigned fiercely for the chance to play McClane, only to have his life flash before his eyes on his very first day of filming. The scene was supposed to be spectacular. McClane jumps from a rooftop as fireballs erupt behind him. For safety, Bruce was coated in fireproof gel and told to leap toward an inflatable airbag 5 stories below. But something went terribly wrong. The explosions detonated too early, blasting dangerously close as Bruce jumped. He barely landed on the mat, a fraction of a second off, and he could have fallen to his death. Director John McTiernan later said, "Bruce loved doing his own stunts, but that love almost cost him everything." It wasn't the only time the actor's commitment to realism turned dangerous. During one of the film's intense gunfight scenes, Bruce fired blanks that were far louder than normal. The sound was so explosive that it permanently damaged his hearing. Years later, Bruce revealed to The Guardian that he lost 2/3 of his hearing in his left ear during filming. The rumor was that McTiernan used extra loud blanks to make the gunfire sound more realistic on set. The authenticity worked, but at a heartbreaking price. Bruce's daughter, Rumer, later told the Toronto Sun that her father felt pressure to keep pushing through the pain, to do the cool guy thing. Even when the conditions weren't safe, he didn't want to look weak. It's a chilling reminder that the actor behind the bullet-dodging hero wasn't invincible. Ironically, that vulnerability is what made John McClane such a timeless character. He wasn't superhuman, and he often got scared. And he fought through it anyway. That raw humanity is what audiences loved. But in reality, Bruce Willis was enduring more pain than anyone knew. Decades later, as fans rewatch Die Hard every Christmas, those explosive moments hit differently. They're thrilling, yes, but they're also a testament to an actor who gave more than he should have had to. Today's film sets have stricter rules, especially after tragic accidents involving live weapons, like the one that killed Brandon Lee on the set of The Crow. Some productions, such as the recent remake of The Crow, have completely replaced real guns with airsoft alternatives, a step toward ensuring no actor has to risk their life for a scene. Bruce Willis never just acted in explosions. He lived through them. But how far should an actor go for realism? And why did Bruce keep risking everything just to give audiences the perfect thrill? Something to prove. Long before fame, there was just a small-town boy with a stutter, a working-class family, and a dream that no one could see coming. Born in Idar Oberstein, West Germany, Walter Bruce Willis entered the world on an American military base, the son of a United States soldier and a German mother, which explains Bruce's fearless nature. His father, David Willis, was a man of grit, a welder, mechanic, and factory worker, while his mother, Marlene, worked in a bank. They were survivors. In 1957, after David left the Army, the family packed their bags and headed for Carneys Point, New Jersey, a working-class town that would quietly shape one of Hollywood's most unlikely legends. As a boy, Bruce wasn't the confident figure audiences would one day cheer for. He struggled with a stutter that made speaking in class feel like torture. Kids laughed. Teachers pitied him. But when he stepped on stage for the first time in high school, something strange happened. The stutter faded. Acting unlocked a voice he didn't know he had. By the time he graduated from Penn's Grove High in 1973, Buck, as his friends called him, had gone from a shy kid to student council president, unknowingly rehearsing for the leadership and charisma he'd later bring to the screen. After school, life didn't hand him success. He worked security at a nuclear power plant, drove crew buses at a factory, and even became a private investigator, unknowingly foreshadowing the TV detective role that would change everything years later. But beneath the blue-collar routine, something was building: ambition, hunger, and a restless belief that he was meant for more. That belief took him to Montclair State University, where he joined the drama program and landed a role in Cat on a hot tin roof. The stage became his escape, but New Jersey was too small for the dreams brewing inside him. In 1977, Bruce dropped out, moved to New York City, and found himself bartending in the chaotic nightlife of Hell's Kitchen. He poured drinks for strangers by night and chased auditions by day, hoping for one big break. He had no money, no fame, just charm, determination, and a glimmer of something directors couldn't ignore. That glimmer finally caught fire in 1985. Out of 3,000 hopefuls, Bruce was chosen to play David Addison Jr. in Moonlighting alongside Sybil Shepherd. His combination of sarcasm and charm made him an instant star. Awards followed: an Emmy, a Golden Globe, and suddenly the bartender from Hell's Kitchen was a household name. Even Seagrams hired him for a $7 million ad campaign, a staggering deal at the time. But fame wasn't just luck. It was grit, timing, and a dash of rebellion. When Bruce quit drinking in 1988, he walked away from that lucrative contract without hesitation. Then came the movie that would immortalize him. In Die Hard, he became John McClane, the everyman hero who laughed in the face of chaos. Bruce performed most of his own stunts, pushing his body to the limit. The film exploded at the box office, grossing nearly $140 million worldwide and rewriting the rules of the modern action film. By the end of the 1980s, Bruce Willis wasn't just an actor. He had become a phenomenon, a force to be reckoned with. He'd voiced a talking baby in Look Who's Talking, played a haunted veteran in Country, and even released a music album, The Return of Bruno, which spun out a UK hit. But behind the smirk and the swagger was the same kid from Carney's Point, the one who'd learned that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's standing in the spotlight, shaking, and saying your first line anyway. Would anyone have guessed that the boy who once couldn't speak without stuttering would one day command the world's attention with a single line, "Yippee-ki-yay"? Let's explore of his ups and downs in the movie industry. Hollywood's high-stakes gamble. When Bruce Willis first exploded onto screens as John McClane in Die Hard, few could have predicted how deeply that name would etch itself into pop culture. The wisecracking cop with the bloody feet and unstoppable will didn't just save hostages, he saved action cinema itself. The movie became a blueprint for a new kind of hero. And Bruce? Overnight, he went from bartender turned actor to Hollywood's most bankable star. The momentum didn't stop there. With Die Hard 2 and Die Hard with a Vengeance, Bruce rode an unstoppable wave of success. The trilogy raked in more than $700 million worldwide, cementing his place among the elite. At one point, Die Hard 2 and Ghost, starring his then-wife Demi Moore, held the top 2 spots at the box office. No married Hollywood couple would pull off that feat again for decades. It was the golden age of Bruce Willis, and it looked like nothing could go wrong. But the climb to superstardom often hides cracks beneath the surface. In the early 90s, those cracks began to show. Bruce's charm alone couldn't save him from a series of cinematic misfires. The bonfire of the vanities flopped spectacularly, and Hudson Hawk turned from a dream project into a critical disaster. For a while, it seemed the man who could outrun terrorists couldn't outrun box office disappointment. Yet, he fought back, returning to familiar territory with The Last Boy Scout and Striking Distance. Both gave him breathing room, but it was far from redemption. Then came Color of Night. Critics tore it apart, but audiences couldn't get enough of it. The film's steamy scenes, later named by Maxim as the best in movie history, kept it alive in home rentals, proving Bruce still had the power to draw attention, even when his career balance wobbled. The real turning point arrived in 1994, when Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction hit theaters. It wasn't just a comeback, it was more like a resurrection. As the stoic boxer Butch Coolidge, Bruce reminded Hollywood what he could do when the right script met the right grit. The film's success reignited his career and restored his edge. From there, he dove into a mix of genres: the dark sci-fi masterpiece, 12 Monkeys, the colorful chaos of The Fifth Element, and the world-saving spectacle of Armageddon, which became the highest-grossing film of the year. Still, Bruce's path was anything but smooth. Between the blockbusters were forgettable misfires like Mercury Rising and Breakfast of Champions. The canceled Broadway Brawler project nearly derailed his reputation behind the scenes, until Armageddon saved the day and restored his star power once again. His voice and likeness even appeared in a PlayStation video game, Apocalypse, marking his growing influence beyond the big screen. Then, just when audiences thought they'd seen it all, The Sixth Sense arrived. With its haunting twist and Bruce's understated performance, it became a box office and critical phenomenon. The phrase, "I see dead people," became an instant part of movie history. And Bruce, once again, stood at the top of his game. The 2000s brought new challenges and even more reinvention. Bruce showcased his comedic timing in Friends, earning an Emmy for his guest role as Paul Stevens, the overprotective father with a secret soft spot. He followed it with The Whole Nine Yards and Disney's The Kid, proving he could shift effortlessly between tough guy and heartwarming hero. By the mid-2000s, he was everywhere, from voicing animated characters in Over the Hedge to embodying hard-boiled detectives in Sin City. When he returned to Die Hard in 2007's Live Free or Die Hard, the nostalgia was electric. McClane was angrier, and just as indestructible audiences cheered, the critics nodded, and Bruce had done it again. Defied the odds, reinvented the legend. Even off-screen, Bruce kept his fans guessing. From hosting Saturday Night Live in wigs and wild stunts, to appearing in quirky commercials and unpredictable cameos, he blurred the line between star and showman. He was unpredictable, daring, and still very much Bruce Willis. By the 2010s, he had nothing left to prove. Collaborating with legends like Stallone and Schwarzenegger in The Expendables and starring in the stylish Moonrise Kingdom and Looper, Bruce reminded everyone why his name still drew crowds. His career wasn't just a series of roles, it was a saga of survival and reinvention. Interestingly, Bruce was not all work. What are some of the hobbies he indulged in behind the screen? More than a stuntman. Long before headlines focused on Bruce Willis's heartbreak and health struggles, he was quietly building an empire far beyond the movie sets that made him a global icon. Behind the million-dollar paychecks, the die-hard star lived a life that seemed unstoppable until the cracks began to show. From the outside, Bruce's world shimmered with success. He owned lavish homes stretching from Los Angeles to his childhood roots in Penns Grove, New Jersey. In New York City, he lived high above the chaos, renting exclusive apartments in Trump Tower and Manhattan's Riverside South. Each one a silent witness to a life lived in the spotlight. But wealth wasn't enough for the man who once said he craved control over his destiny. In 2000, Bruce teamed up with producer Arnold Rifkin to launch Cheyenne Enterprises, a bold attempt to shift from actor to power player. But by 2007, Bruce quietly stepped away, leaving Rifkin to run the show alone. It was a telling move that hinted at exhaustion, or perhaps a man trying to simplify his increasingly complicated world. Yet, Bruce never stopped building. In Haley, Idaho, a small, peaceful town miles away from Hollywood's madness, he poured his fortune into local life. He even bought the Mint Bar, the Liberty Theater, and several small businesses, hoping to create a place where community mattered more than fame. Locals saw him not as a movie star, but as Bruce, the neighbor who helped keep their town alive. But his entrepreneurial spirit reached far beyond Idaho. Bruce joined forces with fellow action legends Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone to promote Planet Hollywood, a flashy restaurant chain that blurred the lines between celebrity and business. The trio's faces were plastered across billboards, magazine covers, and grand openings, their star power fueling a brand that promised fans a slice of cinematic glamour. Their pay? Not in cash, but in company shares. For Bruce, it was a gamble, a bet on fame itself. In 2009, another unexpected twist. He became the international face of Sobieski Vodka, securing a 3.3% stake in its parent company, Belvedere. 9 years later, he reappeared in a new light as the global ambassador for Hell Energy drink, a Hungarian brand looking to bottle the same unbreakable energy Bruce once brought to the big screen. But while the deals and endorsements piled up, life behind the scenes was more complex than any script. His personal life played out like a bittersweet Hollywood tale. In 1987, Bruce married actress Demi Moore in a surprise ceremony in Las Vegas, followed by a star-studded reception at Warner Brothers Studios that drew hundreds. They seemed unstoppable, a power couple with 3 beautiful daughters, Rumor, Scout, and Tallulah. Yet by 1998, the fairy tale cracked. Their split became one of Hollywood's most talked-about separations. Bruce once admitted that the divorce made him feel like he'd failed as a husband and a father. It was fellow actor Will Smith who helped him find peace, encouraging him to embrace friendship over bitterness. And he did, astonishingly so. Bruce stayed close not only to Moore, but also to her then-husband, Ashton Kutcher, even attending their wedding. After a brief engagement to actress Brooke Burns, Bruce found love again with model Emma Hemming. Their 2009 wedding in the Turks and Caicos was intimate yet star-studded. His daughters, Demi and Ashton, among the guests. The ceremony wasn't legally binding, but 6 days later, they made it official in Beverly Hills. Together, they welcomed 2 daughters, completing a blended family that seemed to thrive on love, forgiveness, and laughter. Bruce Willis might have looked like the man who had it all, but behind that tough exterior was a life filled with drama and shocking twists. Over the years, the action legend has found himself tangled in controversies that left fans stunned and questioning what really went on behind the scenes. So, what were the scandals that shook Bruce Willis's once perfect image? Scandal-plagued Bruce Willis film shot in China. When Bruce Willis stepped off his private jet in China, he expected the usual Hollywood treatment. Instead, he got a surprise that was the beginning of one of the strangest film productions of his career. The crew waiting for him didn't even have enough money to pay the deposit for his hotel room. That was the first clue that something was very wrong. The movie was called Airstrike, but behind the scenes, the real drama was far more explosive than anything written in the script. What started as a big-budget war epic slowly unraveled into a tangled mess of scandals, disappearances, and financial chaos that would shake China's movie industry to its core. The original producer, Shi Jianxiang, had vanished. He literally fled the country after his empire crumbled in a massive financial scandal. His company had been caught in a $5.8 billion peer-to-peer lending scheme that collapsed, taking investors' money and leaving the movie half-finished. Director Xiao Feng, desperate to keep the project alive, poured his personal savings into completing the film. He later admitted on his blog that he had to pay Bruce Willis's hotel deposit himself, showing just how far the production had fallen. But the nightmare wasn't over. As cameras rolled, another storm hit. One of the film's biggest stars, Fan Bingbing, one of China's most famous actresses, suddenly disappeared. She was at the peak of her career, loved by millions, and then she was just gone. Rumors spread like wildfire. Was she hiding or arrested? For months, no one knew. When she finally resurfaced, the truth stunned fans. The government revealed that Fan had been found guilty of tax evasion, accused of using yin-yang contracts to conceal her income, including her pay from airstrike. The scandal rocked the Chinese entertainment world, and the government levied one of the largest fines in history against her. Fan publicly apologized, promising to repay every yuan owed. Meanwhile, airstrike was caught in limbo. The movie, meant to tell the heroic story of how the people of Chongqing stood strong against Japanese air raids during the Second World War, had become a cautionary tale about greed, mismanagement, and the dark side of fame. In the United States, Lionsgate still planned to release the film in select theaters, quietly brushing aside questions about its chaotic past. But in China, the market it was meant for, its release was indefinitely postponed. No one knew if it would ever see the light of day. April Ye, CEO of Film Finances China, put it bluntly, "Airstrike's problems highlight the lack of professional management and risk awareness among filmmakers. It's a necessary pain before the industry gets better." Xu Jianxiang's story didn't just end with airstrike. Another scandal had already tainted his name. The 2016 film Ip Man 3, which he backed with Donnie Yen and Mike Tyson. The movie was accused of inflating its box office numbers, and when the truth came out, the companies tied to Shy saw their stock prices crash. Then came the peer-to-peer lending collapse. Billions were lost, investors were furious, and Shy was gone without a trace. Prosecutors later told a Shanghai court that his companies had illegally raised more than 40 billion yuan. He couldn't be reached for comment, and perhaps that says it all. The Chinese government wasn't done cleaning house. Tax authorities launched a sweeping investigation, demanding that every celebrity and studio come clean and pay what they owed. The entertainment world had never seen anything like it. All the while, China was still pushing to expand its soft power through film, hoping to win global audiences and rival Hollywood's influence. But for every success like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, there seemed to be another setback. Even massive China-US co-productions like The Great Wall, starring Matt Damon, flopped in America despite their budgets. And yet, the chaos around Airstrike stood out, a film so soaked in controversy that some called it cursed. A missing actress, a fugitive producer, a director who paid deposits out of his own pocket. And in the middle of it all, Bruce Willis, the Hollywood legend, was trapped in a real-life plot twist no screenwriter could have imagined. Stanley Rosen, a professor at the University of Southern California, summed it up perfectly. It's hard to call any one film the most scandal-plagued, but Airstrike is certainly up there. And he was right. What was meant to be a patriotic war film turned into a lesson in how quickly the glitz of cinema can collapse into chaos. Regardless, Bruce Willis would definitely leave a lasting mark on Hollywood through his generosity, mentorship, and friendships, notably with actors like Matthew Perry and Haley Joel Osment. His influence extended to peers such as Samuel L. Jackson and inspired his daughters to pursue acting careers. But that's not all. M. Night Shyamalan confessed that Bruce, his big brother, will always be that hero on the poster on his wall as a kid. Haley Joel Osment, Bruce's Sixth Sense co-star, also described him as a true legend whose career spans nearly half a century. Anthony Hopkins called working with Bruce in Red 2 a special time and sent love to his family, while Dean Norris praised him as a lovely, awesome, badass man and a legend. Co-stars and peers alike, from Sarah Paulson to Jamie Lee Curtis and Rita Wilson, sent heartfelt messages of love, admiration, and prayers. Even public figures like Gabby Giffords, who also lives with aphasia, shared their support. This shows that Bruce's legacy remains powerful, shaping both the actors he worked with and the way audiences remember his dedication and talent. Is this truly the end of Bruce Willis's acting career? And how will his legacy continue to shape Hollywood and inspire the next generation of actors? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.